Om Shanti, everyone. Good evening, good night. Hopefully, it's not good morning. So, can you hear me properly, clearly? Okay, so today's Murli, Baba is talking about royalty. So the entire Murli was focused on royalty. So sometimes when we have to give classes or we have to give a talk, and we're given certain subjects, and sometimes the subject could be just a virtue, such as royalty. Then we can come back to this Murli and create our talk around it, spiritual royalty, because the entire Murli is focused on this one word, royalty. And of course, the royalty is not something Lokik, it is something spiritual. So Baba told us about royalty at 3 specific times in the cycle. And he said that he was looking at the spiritual royal family. But he was looking at the spiritual royal family within the context of the whole cycle. So he was looking at these royal souls who made up or who presently make up the royal family. So Baba was asking us that if we can see ourselves as those royal souls, and if we can see ourselves as royal souls within the three aspects of time. So the three aspects of time that Baba spoke about was spiritual royalty at the beginning, which is Adi Kal. Then spiritual royalty in the incorporeal world, which he referred to as Anadi Kal, that eternal time. And then he spoke about spiritual royalty at the confluence age. And so these three aspects, time, it's like the beginning, which is the golden and silver ages, now the confluence age, but there's a royalty that we go home with and a royalty that we maintain while being in the home in our incorporeal stage as bodiless souls. So Baba described in detail what Anadi Kal means, the royalty at the time which he refers to as eternal, which is in the home, which is in that incorporeal Shanti Dham, the place of peace, the place of silence, but it is our sweet home, and it is our eternal sweet home. Now, Baba says, when we are in that eternal sweet home, which is Anadi Kal, it's eternal time. And it's a beautiful concept. When I'm in the home as a soul, I am living in eternal time. Anadi Kal is eternal time. And so that experience of eternity, I can only have when I'm soul conscious in the incorporeal stage and experiencing my home. And he says that this experience of Anadi Kal, being in the eternal sweet home, is the most elevated experience that I can have, because it gives me a glimpse of the sparkle of my spirituality. And so he says that in that incorporeal world, all the souls are sparkling forms of light, like he was saying in today's Murli. He is like a star, and all the souls are like stars. So when we go home, as we could see from the image of the incorporeal tree that we have created, we are all like tiny points, and it's like a rosary. It's like, I call it a chandelier of tiny lights, of these beautiful sparkling forms of light. So Bob says all will have that. But he says, but even though everyone will be this sparkling light or have this sparkling form of light in the incorporeal home, there is a uniqueness. There's a spiritual royalty that is unique within these royal souls that he's calling us. And so because of that unique sparkle of spiritual light in us, the royalty is more profound. And so he says, it's just like when you look up in the sky and you see all the different planets and you see the stars, the planetary stars, some you will see shining brighter than others. And the ones that are shining brighter than others automatically will attract us. So my favorite star when I look up in the sky is usually Jupiter. It shines very brightly, that star. So he says that we must also see ourselves, that spiritual, unique, royal sparkle that is in us, these royal souls. And we must experience how they shine and they're experienced in the supreme region. So this was the first Anadi Kal in relation to our royalty, the royalty of the sparkle of our unique light that we only experience in the home, in the Sattva regions. And then Baba talked about Adi Kal, which is the golden and silver ages, the royalty that we experience at that time, which is the beginning. And so he says the first royalty that happens in the golden and silver ages, particularly the golden age, is that we have the right to become part of the royal family of the world emperor, right? Because each emperor there will have a royal family. So that's the royalty we are aspiring to in the beginning of time, to return to be part of the royal family of the world emperor. Then he described it to say that that kind of royalty is that no one else would have that royalty to become part of the family of the first emperor of the golden age, or a world emperor, any one of the 8, I suppose, but to aspire to become part of that royal family, that throughout the whole cycle, no one else has the royalty that we souls have when we are deity souls. That royalty of being part of the deity community, being part of the royal family of Narayan, the world emperor, he says that royalty connected to being a deity is the highest royalty throughout the whole cycle. So that was the second aspect of spiritual royalty in that Adi Kal, that original time. So he says, then he compared it, that if we were to think of the way the royalty is worshipped in our non-living or worthy of worship forms. So for instance, people are now celebrating Diwali, and so they're worshiping Lakshmi in her non-living form. And yet there's so much royalty in worshiping her. Like they worship her days before the actual day of Diwali. And today is actually very auspicious in the course of this worshiping. And today is auspicious because people go out and buy gold. And so part of days before they worship Lakshmi, which is on Monday, the 24th, today is the day they buy gold because it's an auspicious day to buy the gold as they're worshiping Lakshmi. And of course, the royalty in the worshiping is gold because that is the highest and most valuable metal that they keep as an asset, they keep as their investment. So next to money is gold. So Lakshmi in her prosperity, which she represents, people accumulate prosperity and investments for prosperity in many different ways. And gold is what is worthy of worshiping her. Now, if that level of royalty is applied to the non-living image of Lakshmi, just think about the royalty in her living form in the golden age. What a high level of that royalty she would have represented in the living form in her very being in her spiritual embodiment of being Lakshmi, that even at the end of the Iron Age, they worship her with that royalty still. So Baba says that's one thing. When you compare the royalty of your worthy of worship, your worship-worthy state, and your living state as a deity. But the second aspect that Baba talked about is that throughout from the Copper Age on, no founder of a religion, no righteous soul, which is a Dharam Atma, no righteous soul or no great soul, Mahatma, is worshipped according to the method of royalty. Only the deity souls, and that too who belong to the royal family, will be worshipped with the accurate method of royalty. So that's another level of our royalty at the beginning of time, that no one else was worshipped with the accurate method. So then Baba says that, you know, we need to think about this royalty of the Golden Age, and we need to ask ourselves that, do I really belong to that family? Am I really moving into that community of deities? And am I royal? Am I moving with the hope that I will be royal to that extent that he just described to me? Or do I see myself with a right to that? So am I part of that community on the basis of a memory that got ignited inside of me? And what got triggered was, yes, I belong to this level of royalty in the Golden Age? Or am I just becoming it? Am I making effort, but I'm not really sure if I belong here or not? So he was saying that recognize where you belong. You belong to the deity community. Claim that right. And don't make effort just for the sake of making effort without that faith that, yes, this is who I am. I am part of that deity community. And this is the level of royalty that will emerge out of me. And then Baba talked about the confluence age, which is the now time. Confluence is always now. So one is eternal, anadi. One is the beginning time, which is adi. And now it's the now time, which is the confluence age. So when Baba described the royalty of the confluence age, he described that spiritual royalty as our angelic form. So he says that we are, the spiritual royalty is that we are becoming those angels. But along with that, we are also the royal family of God. We are the royal family of the Father, of the spiritual Father. And understanding these two things, I am spiritual royalty at the confluence age is being angelic. Spiritual royalty at the confluence age is to belong to the spiritual Father, the royal spiritual family of the Father. When I look at those two, Baba is saying, what's the foundation of these two forms of royalty? And the foundation of these two forms of royalty, he's saying it's complete purity. Because this complete purity of the confluence age is what will mold and form the royalty of the Adi time, which is the time of the beginning. So now Baba then, of course, why he's talking to us, he wants us to relate deeply to what he's saying. He wants us to look within our subconscious, to look within the depths of our sanskaras and relate to what he's saying. So he says, ask yourself, and he will continue throughout the whole Murli to ask us to check things. So the first thing he's asking us to check from in relation to the now time, which is the confluence age, is whether we have the sparkle of spiritual royalty and whether this is being experienced by others. So if I have complete purity as the foundation to being angelic and being a child of Baba, being a Brahmin, is my purity being experienced as spiritual royalty by others? That's the first thing I have to check. Are they saying that, I recognize you're living a life of purity, or I recognize that you are in connection with a higher source, or there's something different about you. So there's some way others will acknowledge that we are living with this foundation of purity. Then he says, the second thing to check is that, is this intoxication of the spiritual royalty of the confluence age experienced from every divine activity, from every action I'm doing? So he says, if something is being experienced through my actions, then I will be able, people, but also myself, it will show up on my face. It will show up in the quality of the actions that I'm doing. I will be aware of it, but others will also be aware of it. So he's saying when it comes to spiritual royalty, it cannot remain hidden. It cannot remain incognito. It is something that is self-revealed. It shows up and becomes visible, whether I want it to or not. It's just like if I'm sad inside, I can't hide it from my activities, nor can I hide it from the expression on my face. Vibrationally, it reveals itself to others. And I certainly know that that is what I'm going through. So it's the same thing with spiritual royalty. Coming from that foundation of purity, it would reveal itself. It cannot remain incognito. So those were things he was saying to check. Now, the other level of checking he asked us to do is ask yourself, he says, is royalty visible on your face and in your activity? Is it truly visible? So he says what you have to do to check this is to look in the mirror of knowledge. So if we were to use the Murli every morning as a mirror, and we were to look into this mirror of knowledge, and even the way we're listening to the Murli and the way our faces are as we're doing that action of listening to the Murli, we will be able to see whether there's that spiritual intoxication.
Yogi bano, jnani bano, yogi जीवन है प्यारा. Yogi bano, jnani bano, yogi जीवन है प्यारा. काम क्रोध मद लोभ मोह वश आज है सब मोहताज. योग लगा कर पाप मिटा ले, स्वर्ग सजा ले तू आज. काम क्रोध मद लोभ मोह वश आज है सब मोहताज. योग लगा कर पाप मिटा ले, स्वर्ग सजा ले तू आज।
जन्म जन्म की प्यास बुझा ले, पावन बन कर आज।
योगी बनो, ज्ञानी बनो, योगी जीवन है प्यारा।
संगम युग में परम पिता शिव कहते हैं राज।
तू है एक अविनाशी आत्मा, सुन लो मेरी आवाज।
संगम युग में परम पिता शिव कहते हैं राज।
तू है एक अविनाशी आत्मा, सुन लो मेरी आवाज।
सुख शांति और पावनता से झोले भर लो आज।
योगी बनो, ज्ञानी बनो, योगी जीवन है प्यारा।
परम धाम से आए हैं शिव, ब्रह्मा तन आधार। मुक्ति और जीवन मुक्ति का जन्म सिद्ध अधिकार। परम धाम से आए हैं शिव, ब्रह्मा तन आधार। मुक्ति और जीवन मुक्ति का जन्म सिद्ध अधिकार।
चलना है, चलना है घर वापस, अब तो यही ज्ञान का सार। योगी बनो, ज्ञानी बनो, योगी जीवन है प्यारा। योगी जीवन है प्यारा, योगी जीवन है प्यारा।
So then Baba went on to talk about incognito. Now, why would Baba move into describing this word incognito to us? Because this spiritual royalty that he's talking about is something that requires from the soul incognito effort. But within doing the incognito effort, what he's saying, it doesn't remain hidden. It is something I have to do for myself. It's a commitment I have to make to myself. It is work I have to do with myself. But it is something that shows itself instantly when I do it. So he said it is like a diamond. And just as how a diamond cannot remain hidden, the spiritual sparkle of royalty, or the sparkle of spiritual royalty, will not and cannot remain hidden. But he then reflected back to us the dilemma, I would say, that we put ourselves in. And what we tend to do, whether, what is the reason we do it, I don't know, but we tend to do it. And that is when it comes to the subtle efforts that we have to make, we always say, well, I'm incognito. I'm doing really deep work at an incognito level. Nobody knows about it. And nobody's recognizing I'm doing this. But never mind. It will show itself when it's the right time. And then people will automatically say, this one was doing a lot of incognito effort, yet we didn't even realize that incognito effort was being done by them. Now, Baba is saying that incognito effort is a very good thing. In other words, you're doing it inside using the right method, following the right directions with honesty, with pure intent, and with all of that. So it is a very good thing. Those are not things that people see. So they're incognito. But Baba says what is not incognito is the spiritual intoxication and the sparkle of the spiritual royalty will not remain incognito. So spiritual intoxication, that sparkle of intoxication, and the sparkle of spiritual royalty, even though it's incognito work, it will definitely be experienced by others. It will, I can't control it then. It will just leave me and it will be experienced by others. So he's saying that no matter how one try to keep themselves incognito, it won't stay incognito because it will have the impact, and the impact will be through my words. It will be through my relationship and my connections, and it will be through spiritual interactions. Words, relationship and connection, and spiritual interactions. So these are the three ways I can't control. I cannot stop the efforts I'm doing in an incognito way to reveal themselves. They will be revealed. So Baba says that it would, through words, it may not be revealed through the words I'm speaking, but it will be revealed through the behavior that is behind the words. So it would, people will, feel what is coming from me in terms of my spiritual royalty. So Baba says that sometimes you may say, yes, I want to keep myself incognito. And maybe you're saying that because you want to be humble. And that's the specialty of humility. But you must also understand, and this is looking into the mirror of knowledge. Looking into the mirror of knowledge is looking at what I should understand by this effort and what I shouldn't be saying and what I shouldn't be doing. So he's saying that whatever you do in terms of spiritual royalty, it will be revealed. It cannot remain incognito. So don't say that you are incognito, even if it is through humility, because you're understanding in that humility that others will definitely have the experience of your spiritual royalty. So I thought that was so very interesting, the way Baba went into the deep meaning of this word incognito and incognito effort maker, in which he's saying, to say that I am an incognito effort maker, it's no longer incognito because you just revealed it. You just said that. And the moment you say it, it means you're no longer incognito, you revealed yourself. So he was saying that be aware of what it means. And then he says the other thing we do is that we say we are incognito effort makers, but the daddies don't even recognize us in terms of the efforts we are making. And so then we become challenging. We challenge ourselves, but we also challenge them and say, look, you will see how this will be revealed, and you will see how well I'm doing, and you will see what will happen in the future. But Baba says, no, that he used this term, miya mitu, that is just being clever with yourself, and that is not incognito. So he says that using this word, being an incognito effort maker, don't be clever with it. understand. Understand that the method may be incognito, the way you're doing it may be incognito, your intentions may be incognito. The disciplines you're following may be incognito, but the results will reveal themselves. That would not be incognito. So if you're doing something incognito and it's bringing out a different result, then it reveals the effort you're making. So I can't say I'm very loving when others are experiencing me to be not loving. If I am loving as an incognito effort maker, it will reveal the love to others. So this is what Baba is saying, just don't be clever with yourself. And then the other aspect he was saying that is connected with spiritual royalty at the confluence age is this whole dharana of being contented. So he says that royal souls, an indication of royal souls is that they would always feel constantly full. There would be a fullness inside of them. It is as if when you look at them, you would say these souls are like always satisfied. And not only are they satisfied, but they are completely satisfied souls. And so their people would want to be with them, because when people are with them, they would experience from them that contentment, that way of being fully satisfied, no matter what situation they may be in. And so they would then look at others with that state of being fully satisfied, and nothing will shake that state of being fully satisfied, even when they know what's going on for the other. So even if they know that the other, something is going on there, it wouldn't affect their satisfaction, because they are able to hold their satisfaction, their contentment. And so it doesn't matter what situations and circumstances come in front of them, it wouldn't make them discontent. And because they're able to do this, they are then able to give as a cooperation to others the virtue of contentment to others who are discontented. Now think about this. The royalty of my dharana, the royalty with which the dharana of contentment shows up in my life, is that no matter what the situation or what the person is like, I stay true to my contentment, and then I offer that as a strength to the other, even though they are discontented. And so I cooperate with them with my contentment. And so they're not able to bring me down, to make me dissatisfied, to take away my contentment, because I still need something from them if that happens. But if I am truly contented, then that contentment shows up as a royal behavior, and I offer it as a cooperation to others so that they could see that there must be something inside of them that could be satisfied, and they could use that satisfaction to help themselves. So Baba says this is a form of being merciful. And being merciful always will come from an inner state of fullness. If I'm not full, I cannot be merciful. And so he says, this is the kind of mercy when I use a virtue to give cooperation to another to help them change. This is the kind of transformation that a royal soul will be offering to others, because it is coming from the royal soul's inner state of good wishes and pure feelings. So a royal soul will exude that, and that is what will touch another and create a sense of satisfaction in them and trust that here is someone who's there to help me. Now, he says, when you're able to do that level of cooperation in order to transform souls with your good wishes and your pure feelings, this is what he calls as elevated actions of royal souls, of spiritually royal souls. So it is very beautiful because souls who do that wouldn't perhaps sit and have long, convincing conversations with others. They wouldn't use words to convince others of anything. But what they will use to convince others is what we refer to as bhavana. That this one touched me with their bhavana. And that bhavana is good wishes and pure feelings. And so he says, royalty, spiritual royalty is you would not spend your intellect engaged in trivial matters. He says, even people in the world, presidents, prime ministers, kings, they don't sit around engaging themselves, hopefully they don't, in useless matters. So he says that a spiritually royal person will not do that. They will always keep their intellects very stable and unshakable, and it wouldn't engage in trivial matters, nor will their vision be drawn to anything insignificant. So, and their words will not border on anything wasteful. So intellect, no trivial matters, vision, nothing insignificant, words, nothing bordering on anything that is wasteful. So he says that we, the royal souls, this is again so beautiful, we will be yukti yukt. Like the thing about being a diplomat is that they are diplomatic. Diplomats are very aware of their words, and they don't want to use words that would be used against their governments or against the agenda of the governments or any such thing. So a spiritually royal soul will be very yukti-yukt. And Baba described this word yukti-yukt to us. So a yukti-yukt person will be operating at these three levels. What will their intellect be engaged with? What will their vision be seeing? And what will their words be saying? So when I'm aware of these three things, I become yukti-yukt. And he says a yukti-yukt person is beyond wasteful feelings. So when I'm using these three, it's connected back to what he says, good wishes, pure feelings. So I'm beyond wasteful feelings. And a yukti-yukt person, their intellect, their words, and their vision will be connected to Avyakt intentions and Avyakt feelings. Now, when I was interviewing Sister Mohini and I asked her what Avyakt intentions and Avyakt feelings mean, Sister Mohini said, anything that's beyond the physical. So I have to check there. Is my intention connected to anything of the physical world or the limitations of the physical or any selfish interest? Is the same with my feelings. Is it connected to any of those things? Or is it connected purely to what is true and authentic and what Baba is telling me. And then I will know that it's Avyakt. It is, I'm connecting to the spiritual royalty of the confluence age, which is being angelic. So Avyakt is to connect to the angelic. Yukti Yukt is to go beyond wasteful feelings. So these were two very specific things, Yukti Yukt and Avyakt, that Baba defined here in relation to being a spiritually royal soul of the confluence age. The other, he then elaborated on spiritual royalty in my attitude, in my drishti, and in my actions. So he says, if I were to inculcate royalty in my attitude, in my drishti, and in my actions, this becomes the right for me to claim. It gives me the right then to claim the future royalty. I will come into the royal family because I will have an alignment with them, with Brahma Baba, for instance, in Brahma Baba's attitude, Brahma Baba's drishti, and Brahma Baba's actions. So the more I am in alignment with him as Narayan, the emperor, the first emperor, it's the more I'm moving closer to become part of his family. And that's what I want. Maybe I don't want to be a Narayan, but I want to be part of Narayan's family. So I'm going to look at these three aspects of attitude, of drishti, and of actions. So Baba was saying that I need to check. So what am I checking now? Is my attitude royal? How am I going to check for that? He says to check to see if my attitude is royal, I will check to see if I constantly interact with every soul with an attitude of pure feelings and good wishes. Or am I seeing, or am I, within my attitude, I carry biases and prejudices and discriminations against them and things that they have done in the past that I'm still carrying as a baggage inside of me. That is all to do with attitude. So to know if I have a royal attitude, if my attitude is royal, I have to check that. Am I interacting with others with pure feelings and good action? Now, remember what he said earlier, that part of the revelation of spiritual royalty is that it happens at the level of impact based on interactions. So the impact based on interactions comes from the pure feelings and good wishes that I have. Pure feelings and good wishes is where the impact lies. So that is one. Then he asks us to check our royal drishti. And he says, royal drishti is to see others in their angelic forms. But I have to first see myself in my angelic form, because I can only look at another in their angelic form if I am in my angelic form. And then the third, which is actions, he says actions, royal actions mean to interact with others while constantly giving and receiving happiness. But giving and receiving happiness must be in accordance to elevated actions. So I wouldn't compromise on my actions to give and receive happiness. But I have to keep my actions elevated according to Srimat. in order to give and receive happiness. So these are the three things we need to check. Attitude, what's the impact of my attitude in relation to my pure feelings and good wishes? My drishti, am I in my angelic form looking at another in their angelic form? And I always, when I hear this word angelic, am I doing it with transparency? Angelic form is a transparent light that reveals everything about me. Angelic form is spiritual royalty. So what it should be revealing about me are the things that are Avyakt, are the things that are angelic, are the things that are based on that complete purity that is foundational to the spiritual royalty of the confluence age. And then my actions, are they elevated? Is the giving and taking of happiness connected to Srimad, connected to elevated actions? So then Baba told us, if we want to know more about that, we will follow Brahma Baba. He says, because when you follow Brahma Baba, you're following Shiv Baba. And so when we listen to all of this, we listen in order to follow. And who are we going to be following? It's the one we can see. It's Brahma Baba. So that was very beautiful. And if we want to go into the royal family, then we will be going with the first emperor. And that first emperor is Brahma Baba. And then Baba went on to talk about dying alive. So what does dying alive mean? He says, is it that you gather up the money that you have, you take it and you call up a trance messenger and you said, here, I think I am ready for this offering of bhog so that I can celebrate my Marjiva, my dying alive? He says, no, this is not what dying alive means. So what does dying alive mean? He says to be dead from your old sanskaras, to be dead from the attraction of the old sanskaras and of the old world. So dying alive means to be dead from your old sanskaras and to be dead from the attraction of the old sanskaras to the old world. And it is not just offering of bhog. That is what this is what Baba means when he says to die alive. So he says, when you sit on the stage, it's a common thing. So if you go to Madhuban, you'd see all these old Matajis and old brothers sitting there on both sides, and bhog is being offered. So Baba says, no, you just don't sit on that stage. That's a common thing. But dying alive is about the intellect. So he says it's to make your intellect sit in Baba's remembrance, not the body sitting, but the intellect sitting. And the intellect is making a commitment to not be pulled by its old sanskaras, nor to the attraction of the old world. And he says, this is what he means by dying alive, because to die means to be transformed. So transformation means death. And that is connected to killing those old sanskaras and the attraction they carry. And the way to do it is to let the intellect sit in remembrance of Baba. And then Baba went on to talk about the reason that we sometimes are not able to change those old sanskaras. It's because the seed of the old sanskara is still living in us. And they show up as the heads of Ravan. And so we may shoot one head, but another head would come up because the seed is still sitting inside of the soul. And so Ravan's head keep coming up again and again. And so he was saying we need to finish the seed, which is the main foundation. And we need to change. If we finish the seed of the sanskaras, we will change the form. And Maya will not be able to attack us. Maya will start bowing to us. Maya will not come to us. She will leave us for all time, because we need to understand that if the seed of something, if a little bit of that sanskara stays within us, Maya, it's giving Maya the room to come into us. But if we change it at the foundational level, which is the seed, which means if we deal with the causes, then we'll be able to transform and Maya will not come to us. So he was cautioning us about our sanskaras to change it at the level of the seed. And this is what the seed form stage is all about in yoga. That if I know I have a weakness, I will take that weakness and put it in front of Baba and be in that anadi stage. Go with him in the eternal spiritual royalty. Be with him in the home. Connect to Shiv Baba, draw Shiv Baba's Shakti, and work with the foundation. And that is called changing at the level of the foundation. And then Baba finally asks us to check the percentage of our royalty. And the way that we would start, of course, is at the level that we're all comfortable with, which is our action. So he says that to check the percentage, you will check that your every action is according to that of the spiritual royal family. And that's why we have to follow Brahma Baba in this. Are my actions according to what Baba would want me to do? And he says, because you have to check it at actions, of course, but the actions are always aligned to my words and my thoughts. So they work, these three work together. And so I have to check all three, but he says the result he's looking for in order to go into that first emperor's family, he wants from us 99% of royalty. He gave us a leeway of 1%, but he says we have to make 99% to be natural. And when he says natural, he does not want to see us battling with those old sanskaras again and again. He wants us to return to our original and eternal sanskaras, and he wants us to make them natural. So it was very beautiful the way Baba talked about this whole aspect of royalty. And he went through layer upon layer upon layer of different elements of the royalty. And, we're left with, wow, is that what royalty means? Royalty is a huge area of our Brahmin life that maybe we never even thought of how to inculcate this quality, this virtue of royalty. And what I like about it, and maybe because I work a lot with understanding things, and if I can understand something, I'll be committed to doing it. If I don't understand it, and I just, in the surface of the ocean, I would remain there because there's no understanding to bring me deeper. For me, understanding is going deeper. And this is what Baba did with this Murli. And he's been doing it with all the Avyakt Murlis, and of course, the Sakar Murlis as well, in which he takes us into an understanding, the intellect, and he's fascinating the intellect with the understanding. So he's taking the intellect deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then the intellect is just swimming. It's like if you're scuba diving, you go into the coral reefs. And the deeper you go into the ocean, it's the more fascinating you're getting with all the things that exist in the ocean. And you're wanting more because you're going through an experience as well. And so Baba was like saying to us, royalty is what you children are in these three aspects of time. Now claim your right to it. Just don't be struggling, making efforts to be there. But if you understand it, you will remember it. And when you remember it, you will claim a right to it. If you don't remember it, you will always say, I'm becoming royal, but I don't know if I'm royal or not. Or you will try to do it at a superficial level. And there will be this conflict going on between you and others. You may think that you're making the effort to do it, but others are not experiencing it because my efforts are at a superficial level. I haven't really understood the accurate method of making the effort. And then I start justifying it by saying, I'm an incognito effort maker. But Baba says, no. For spiritual royalty, that sparkle is not incognito. It shows itself to others, whether you want it to or not. So if you're humble in saying that, then he says, understand humility, but don't be clever. And I think that's the method, the royal method of the whole Murli, the accurate method of the whole Murli was, whatever you do on the inside will show itself out on the outside. That's when you know the method is accurate. If it's a conflicting thing going on, somehow the method is not accurate. Okay. All right. So there's nothing in the chat. So you all understood it perfectly, right? Wasn't it a lovely, lovely Murli on royalty? I don't know, but when I was in class and they used to go through Murlis and stuff, I always had at least 5 questions to ask. Because as I'm listening to them go through the Murli, I was saying, but what does this mean? And what does that mean? But I suppose you were all very good students. You have no questions to ask because your intellect absorbs and it becomes. Okay, now let's see. Yes, you have a very good teacher who is Baba. So if Baba was in front of you, as he said in the Murli today, the Sakar Murli, who is in front of you? Who is it talking to you? So if you see that Baba is, and I have to follow Brahma Baba, then of course you have no questions. You can't keep questioning your teacher, right? Okay, so let us just remember Baba and be in our royal angelic forms.
कि जैसे
Thank you.
Gracias, Gayatri.
Thank you. Merci. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Papa.
Gracias.
Gracias. Shanti.
Om Shanti.